What's your dumbest character concept that your party actually fell in love with? Let us know in the comments below. Well, I have two. The first is a halfling who was abandoned in the woods as a child. He was found by some members of a monastery and taken in. He lived and trained with them his whole life. But he doesn't really have the necessary temperament, focus, or discipline to be a monk. So he's a fighter of any subclass with the unarmed fighting style who is utterly convinced that he's a monk. He talks about focusing his ki all the time, he quotes his former master obsessively, and blathers on and on about monk stuff constantly. The problem is, he's just too eager, and the monastery sent him out on a very important mission, wink wink, just so they could get some peace and quiet. The second guy, who is a real, genuine scumbag. He's a liar, a cheater, and a true lowlife. Neutral evil, out for himself, proud of the fact that he stole candy from a child, etc. And this guy gets himself into some trouble with some even worse guys who grab him and torture him to death. As his soul departs his body, a powerful entity appears to him and offers to save his life. And what's more, offers him a chance to gain all the power he's ever wanted. He immediately accepts. But wait, the power tells him, there's a catch. I don't care, I take the deal. And so it was. So it was that our scumbag piece of shit character sold his soul to an angel. And now he's bound to not use any of that power for himself, and he has to go around helping other people. And he hates it. He hates it so much. I present to you the most boring bard ever. Human bard, well-behaved, never talks about himself. Whenever you think you're about to get some tragic backstory, completely mundane. His parents, alive. His mentor, retired, enjoying himself. You've never heard of him, unless you're a musician yourself. Then it's like, oh yeah, he sat in with us once. Great guy. Barley Crumpleaf, a halfling divination wizard with the lucky feet. He was all about messing with dice rolls. He more commonly went by the name Swagfoot, and his familiar was a huge fat orange cat named Swagpaws. Oh yeah, that's right, Swagfoot and Swagpaws. I made a shadow monk that was basically just Batman. I did the Batman voice and said, I fade into the shadows, a bunch. It was very fun for me. I was a half-elf, so I had pointy ears, and my parents were killed in front of me as a child for flavor. Bruce the Goose, a Pact of the Tome familiar with a warlock thrall. The warlock had all the spell slots but was a clueless farmer and took instructions on spellcasting from his prized goose familiar. Bruce honks at small children, steals small knickknacks like buttons and silverware, and engages in pitched pseudo-battles with the local butcher. I made a tabaxi barbarian that was just an angry cat. She was named Mittens and had escaped a home with a toddler who liked to dress her up. So she flew into a rage anytime someone came near her with clothing. A pirate-themed Marid warlock with 2 hook hands, 2 peg legs, and 2 eye patches. However, one of his hook hands has a separate hook for each finger, and the other has hooks like Wolverine claws. His peg legs are both pogo sticks represented by otherworldly leap. His Eldritch Blast is a cannon built into one of his legs, and his Grasp of Hadar is his hook-fingered hand being used as a grappling hook. He uses Voice of the Chain Master to see through his parrot's eyes. His Genie's Vessel is a ship in a bottle. Aw, dude, that is so cool. Daisy Bugblat, my goblin druid, spores reflavored as insects. She grew up in the city slums, is profoundly agoraphobic, has severe hay fever, and absolutely hates the outdoors. Her affinities are for houseplants, particularly succulents and cacti, and for vermin like rats, raccoons, possums, cockroaches, etc. In fact, she has a very lovely and perfectly clean home, because she allows the vermin to clean away all her garbage in return for protection. They get safety and food. She gets a clean house. It's a win-win. She also has a strong Brooklyn accent, which kinda happened by accident, but I ran with it. And she animates corpses by having bugs puppet them, kinda like that one ninja family from Naruto. I forget the name. What? They're not zombies? Well, okay, fine. They're zombies, but they're like all natural, organic zombies, okay? No necromancy here. This was in my first campaign, first time playing D&D. The guy sat across from me was playing a humanoid wearing knight's armor on the bottom and covered on top with scarves. In our first big fight, he gets shot in the torso and describes how his body falls off and crumples to the floor. He then shows us a photo of his character, or the inspiration for it at least, and it's the wrong trousers from Wallace and Gromit. We all lost it. My PC is a half-orc storm sorcerer who wears a sailor shirt and booty shorts. They're also the face of the party. But my silliest guy? Probably my twink wizard tiefling, who had the infernal version of rich white parents, naming their child foreign words that they think sound pretty, but have no clue what it actually means. His name is Jerk Buttholes, and he's the best. An elf guy who sold his soul to an amateur crossroads devil for pennies when he was young. The clause of the contract is that his soul goes to hell when he dies, and that the devil herself can't kill him. He keeps finding creative ways to prolong his life unnaturally, and is over 4,000 years old now. His brain can't handle all these memories, so he often doesn't remember what happened an hour before, and confuses historical eras. Basically, he has to constantly improvise his way out of embarrassing situations, like thinking slavery still exists, or like forgetting the purpose of a quest he's currently on. He's a cheerful trickster and a charismatic dumbass, but kind of depressed deep down inside. Meanwhile, the devil is stuck in her apprentice position for thousands of years because of this one stupid contract not being closed, and is seriously pissed. So sometimes she just comes around and dunks on him. In the campaign, he was an artificer, but most of his life, he has been a rogue and has never gone above 7th level because of memory issues and general laziness. I played Mad Mage with a Warforged bard called Jukebox. He used a voice mod to make himself sound robotic, and it was a lot of fun. My tunes aren't usually too goofy, but I did have one, an addled geriatric fairy abjuration wizard. He was a stillborn who was aging backwards from 1,000 years old, Benjamin Button style it seems, but he pulled a 13 from the deck of many things. Don't do that! I'm currently playing a human druid who has horrible allergies to pollen and fur, but he loves nature and animals too much to change professions. His name is Zyrtek. His parents are Ben Adril and Claire Jesus Christ. Hey, I bet they own a farm called Aceuticals too. Jesus. For a crazy one-shot last week, the DM let me bend the rules a little. I played Sir Gallus Fancius Domesticus, Earl of Cluxwort, a chicken, Gallus from the Humblewood setting, on his trusted steed Cletus, a war horse that had been re-skinned as a farmer. Basically a heavily armored chicken with a lance riding on the shoulder of a guy in a straw hat. I once played in a mini-campaign as a Cactari, quite literally a sentient cactus, warlock, Pact of the Fiend, who was 100% sure he was actually a cleric. His village was struck by a devastating plague that brought famine, illness, and death. Searching for a way to save himself and his people, he started praying to the Cactari goddess, but the one who answered was Asmodeus himself. The whole point of this character was being completely clueless about the evil deeds that he was doing, and justifying them with something along the lines of, My goddess is very kind and loving, but she acts in mysterious ways. Not so much a single character as it is a bit I keep up with my friends. In the first one-shot we did after our first campaign, I made a Leonin Watcher's Paladin. I didn't have a name yet, so I just plugged Lorem Ipsum into the name field on Roll20. Later on, I mentioned I still need a name for my guy, which was met with, "What do you mean? He already has the perfect name." Several one-shots later, and every one of my one-shot PCs had their name taken from the Lorem Ipsum filler text. Slimer is a plasmoid wizard who originally was a gelatinous cube that ate another magical character of mine. He is about 4 months old, and his go-to move is to summon demons and aberrations, which he calls his sons. He helps the party's death cleric out by slowly dissolving the flesh off of our dead enemies to make skeletons. There's a 1 in 1,000 chance each session that he'll bud and create progeny. He's level 9 and has 40 hit points. Albert, a 2nd edition venerable gnome illusionist academician. Back in 2nd edition, I made a character to be a mini Einstein. With permission from the DM, I used the aging chart and made a gnome over 200 years old, giving him huge minuses to his physical stats, but granting him +2 int and +3 whiz. Gnomes had +1 int and -1 whiz, so it finished off as +3 int and +2 whiz. Intelligence was more powerful back then as it added skills. Taking modified rolls, I ended up with 18 intelligence and 18 whiz. But all the other stats were a little bit lower. In the end, he had 21 int, 20 whiz, which were ridiculously huge numbers back then. Yet, his strength and con were so low that he had negative modifiers. I also took the Academician kit as an illusionist, which affected his int and whiz modifiers. His knowledge tests usually had the result of yes, and even if he failed, he would pretend he was right and speak of how all the other sages were simply uninformed. Once he reached 6th level, his HP was still only 8, so 2 of the other party members became his full-time bodyguards. He was so fun as a know-it-all that I had to make him an NPC in all the games I've run since then as the one who knows. In a very non-serious campaign, I had a Triton barbarian named Mr. Slete. He was a mercenary hunting the fishing party that killed his parents and turned them into sushi. He had an intelligence of 6. And instead of going into a rage, he'd go into what I called a despair, where he would start weeping uncontrollably as he remembered his parents and go on an axe-swinging rampage while bawling his eyes out. It terrified most NPCs and most of the party members too. He was great fun. Am I limited to D&D on this? By gods, no! You can do Pathfinder, Cyberpunk, Warhammer, name it. My current favorite is a Warhammer 40k orc that is somehow even less there in the brain than normal. Da orc, or dork, has a plan. This plan was a Niki Takitis plan. He's going to find a group of Umis and or hardy races and help them out from the shadows. If this group he is manipulating fights and wins against groups his clan doesn't like, that's basically the same thing as the clan beating them. But other races would kill him on sight, so the orc will do the one thing they won't expect. He will approach them openly and tell them the truth. Hello, I am the orc. You want to kill that guy? Good. I'm going to help you kill him. And because I'm helping you, that means orcs win! Breaking this down in plain English, he is so stupid that he thinks unilaterally helping others in anything they need without question or complaint is him manipulating them. Never change, orc. Never change. Chaotic, stupid changeling warlock with Loki as a patron and fire magic from Loki. Forgot my own face, body, name, accent, and gender because of trauma. Introduced myself differently to every person I meet, then never answered to that name. Warforged Juggernaut Warlock with Disguise Self and Alter Self as my 4th and 5th invocations at 5th level, according to the 2024 rules. I'm going to spend time as a box to mess with people. Or a pixie. Got a homebrew feat to gain half the damage I deal with a specific element as health, and can transfer that health to another creature within 60 feet. I'm kind of a combat healer type deal to help us survive. Gus Cobblestep, halfling rogue, and unbeknownst to him, cleric. Gus, being a streetwise but otherwise extremely inobservant individual, was engaging in some simple back alley gambling when he was approached by a well-dressed, almost radiant individual. Elf, human, something else. Gus could never quite remember. Not that he often tried, of course. Not one to pass up an opportunity for a game of chance, Gus offered the stranger the dice. The mysterious figure smirked and stated the stakes. Money offered little interest to them. The stakes shall be thus: fealty, obedience, allegiance. Do you accept? Gus simply chuckled. What's that then? He asked, distracted. Surely so long as you throw in your 4 silver. And that is how Gus Cobblestep, low-level gambler and sneak thief, unknowingly gained the allegiance of a trickster god. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know in the comments below what's your dumbest character concept that your party actually fell in love with. And if you ever want to help out the channel, make sure to join our membership program. You get early access to videos and maybe a bit more later. We love you all. Please be safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time. Toodaloo for now.